Hi everyone, and welcome to QuickBooks Enterprise Contractors Demonstration. My name is Rayanne Salter with Minding My Books. I've been working with QuickBooks software for over 20 years. I've helped over hundreds of businesses implement QuickBooks Enterprise, and I specialize in finding out what specific needs you require for your business and if QuickBooks Enterprise is a good fit for your business. If it is a good fit, then we work with you, your staff, and accountant during the implementation process. Also, since I'm an Intuit reseller, I'm able to save you more money than if you purchase directly from Intuit telesales department or online through their website. We're using the sample contractors-based business. The sample file is set up with great examples of how a contractor would normally set up their business in QuickBooks. Let's start with the chart of accounts. The chart of accounts is a complete list of a company's accounts and their balances. When you set up their company file, QuickBooks automatically creates your chart of accounts. You can also import your own chart of accounts and use it instead of the default chart of accounts. Next, we'll talk about the items list. QuickBooks is item driven. That means when you fill out an estimate, you're going to use these items you see on this list to fill out your estimate. You'll use these items to charge your customers for services on an invoice or to charge them for material. So in QuickBooks, an item is anything a company buys and sells or resells. Let's take a look at the type of items you can create in QuickBooks. Go to the item at the bottom left of the screen and choose New. You can create service items, and for contractors, this is very important to check this box that says services are used in assemblies or is performed by a subcontractor or partner. This will allow you to enter a cost for the item, how much you pay your contractor, and then enter a sales price, which is the amount you charge your customer. Let's say your subcontractor charges you $50 and you charge your customer $80 for that item. QuickBooks will automatically calculate your markup and margin percentages for that item. This is also helpful in filling out an estimate to see how much you expect to make on your job. You can create inventory parts. These are for goods that you purchase and track a quantity for, and then resell and use for a job. You can create an assembly item in the Contractors Edition. This is when parts are combined to make a larger part. The final item is called the inventory assembly. As an example, let's say you take 30 2x4s, 500 nails, and 80 corner joists that make up a wall. An assembly allows you to take those component parts along with any labor and overhead and combine them into a finished good that you can then charge for your job. You can create non-inventory parts for things like supplies and materials, anything that you don't inventory. And again, it's very important that you check this box so that you can assign a cost with the sales price. You can very easily see what your margin is on an estimate. You can create other charge items for any miscellaneous labor delivery charges, setup fees, and things of that sort. You can create subtotal items for forms. You can create group items that are similar to kits. This will allow you to combine up to 50 items into one line item on an estimate or an invoice. Then you can create discount items, and you also have payment items that you can use, payment items for prepaid amounts or deposits. In the Pro and Premier software, the items list is limited to 14,500 total items, whereas in QuickBooks Enterprise, we've increased that to 1 million items. So you can have 1 million items on your price list in QuickBooks Enterprise. Next, we'll talk about your customer jobs list. This is our customer center. On the left-hand side, you'll see a list of all your customers and jobs. On the right-hand side, you'll see the detail of that customer and jobs. In this example, Albert Cruz is my customer. I have 2 jobs for Albert Cruz. The first one is a kitchen remodel, and the other one is a new construction. On the right-hand side, you'll see a list of transactions that are related to that job. If I need to create a new job for Albert, I can just highlight Albert. I'd click the drop-down from the new customer and job drop-down arrow and choose Add Job. The system will copy all of Albert's information into the new job fields. Then I can give the job a name or number on the screen. I can enter all of the pertinent information about the job, including the billing and shipping information. I can record the payment information, including the credit card information that I need to keep for the job. I can record additional information, including customer types. I can assign a sales rep to the job, and if I have custom fields that are available, then I can record job information, including a job description. I can create job types. I can choose a job status and record project information, such as a start date, an expected end date, and then the actual end date once I click OK. Then that job shows up underneath Albert Cruz. You can go 5 levels deep in the job relationship. So with Albert being at level 1, kitchen remodel being at level 2, if I needed to add a level to kitchen remodel, I could do that. I could go to New Customers in Jobs and choose to add a job. I'll just call this sub-job that allows me to add the 3rd level if I needed to track the kitchen remodel in greater detail. Next, we'll talk about the Vendor Center. The Vendor Center is where you'll keep your list of vendors and subcontractors. Again, on the left-hand side is a list, and on that right-hand side is a list of transactions for that vendor. We'll take a look at Vendor Setup. You have the Address Information tab where you'll record the phone number and address information for the vendor. In the Payment Settings tab, you'll enter the account number, the credit limit if the vendor has given you one, and then the terms that you have negotiated with the vendor. And the Tax Settings tab for the vendor's tax ID number. And if the vendor is eligible for a 1099, on the Account Settings tab, QuickBooks allows you to present 3 expense accounts that would automatically be entered on a bill. For this particular vendor, on the Additional Information tab, you can enter the vendor type, you can create your own vendor types, you can record when a vendor insurance expires, and you can report on those values. Now again, for vendors, you can create custom fields, and between customer, vendor, and employees, you are able to choose up to 30 maximum fields. You can choose up to 12 for any one name type. In our Pro and Premier software, you are only able to create up to 15 custom fields with a maximum of 7 for any one name type. We've doubled the number of custom fields you can create in QuickBooks Enterprise. We've also given you the ability to dictate what sort of information can be entered into the custom fields, including the ability to create a multiple choice list where you will get the drop-down similar to this, where you just choose the value. We've also given you the ability to require the use on either transaction and/or list. Next, we'll talk about payroll setup for job costing purposes. There are some preferences that need to be set up correctly so that you can accurately track payroll costs for job costing purposes. Under the payroll and employee preferences, we'll choose company preferences. You want to make sure that you have enabled job costing class, and item tracking for paycheck expenses. This will allow you to assign a job to your payroll line items on a per employee basis. You also want to make sure that you enable to use time data to create paychecks in the Payroll Info tab. I'll talk more about payroll when I talk about job costing. Just quickly, 2 things about payroll. Intuit offers several payroll options for QuickBooks Enterprise. Be sure to talk with me regarding your options. Along with the payroll service, you also have the option to track workers' comp codes right within QuickBooks Enterprise. Now let's talk about estimates. Let's take a look at an estimate that has already been filled out in our sample file. You'd use an estimate in QuickBooks as a proposal for the job, but you can also use an estimate in QuickBooks as a budget for that job. On an estimate, you'll see the estimated cost. You'll have a markup or margin. Then you have your estimated revenue on the bottom of the form. We've estimated your cost, we've totaled your revenue, and we've shown your markup. The markup amount is the amount of profit you realize if you stay on budget. Included in the estimate is everything that goes into the job. The contractor's addition is the only addition in QuickBooks to allow you to create change orders. A change order happens anytime an adjustment is made to a line item. So if I were to change this line item, even a slight amount, QuickBooks is going to ask me if I want to add a change order to this estimate. I can add the change order to the estimate, and then I can have my customer sign to accept the change order. Another type of estimate included in the sample contractors file is a fixed price estimate. This is an estimate that has a contract amount for a particular price in the contract. A deposit is due during a particular phase, and then you would invoice your customer for each phase. Next, we'll talk about work orders. If you have contractors, you'll use a purchase order as a work order for your vendor. QuickBooks does allow you to create a purchase order directly from the estimate. From the estimate, you can click on Create Purchase Order from the estimate screen. You can then choose whether to create a purchase order for all of the items or for selected items. Let's choose plans and building permits, and then I'll choose OK. Once a purchase order is created, assign it to your vendor or contractor. Now if you need to create an internal order for an employee, you'll need to turn on the sales order function. To do that, you go to Edit Preferences, Sales and Customers, choose Company Preferences, and here's where you'll enable the sales orders. Now you'll have a sales order icon on your home screen. Now you will be able to assign a work order to an employee. You can also create a work order from an estimate. From the estimate, you can click on the Create Sales Order icon, and this tells me that the estimate has been copied to a sales order. And once on that sales order, I can edit the sales order in any way so all the items in this estimate are transferred into the work order. I can remove any line that I don't want on the sales order just by doing a Control-Alt-Delete. Now we are going to talk about job costing. Job costing in QuickBooks Enterprise is very straightforward, and really the only thing that you must remember in QuickBooks is that if you incur a cost for a job, you will need to apply a job to that cost. What does that mean? If I entered a bill for this repair and it was for a particular customer or job, I would just have to make sure that I record the customer job in the customer job field. This check mark means this is a billable expense, which means I want to be reimbursed for this expense. I would uncheck that if I just wanted to record the cost of the job, but not necessarily getting reimbursed for it as soon as I choose. This cost will be recorded to this job, and I can look at a profit and loss by job and see this is a cost to the job. Maybe you didn't enter a bill and you are writing a check. You will find those same fields exist on a check. If you're writing a check on the Items tab and you have the Customer Job field on the Expenses tab, you will see the Customer Job field on any expense transaction. You can record a customer job. We'll be redundant here for a bit, but you're going to go through all the expense transactions that you can record job costing on. If you're entering credit card charges, you will have credit cards set up in QuickBooks. On the Expenses tab, you have that Customer Jobs field on the Items tab. Whether you bought items there or paid for services, non-inventory parts, be sure to record the customer job information. If you're entering a journal entry, you'll also find a customer job here to record a journal entry. And to increase my cost to a job, I would first choose an expense account. I'd enter a credit amount on the first line, which will decrease the expense account. Then our debit account on the second line, I will choose the customer job on the second line. The journal entry will increase my job costs for Heather Campbell, new construction, by 25. You can also record time to jobs. To record time for jobs, you'll either use a single activity or you'll use a weekly timesheet. The single activity allows you to enter the employee who did the work. You'll choose the customer job, the service that was performed, or the amount of time the employee worked on that job. If you're going to get reimbursed for that time, make sure to check the billable box. If you're not going to get reimbursed, you uncheck the billable box. You can also add any notes to that time activity. The single time activity will roll up into the weekly timesheet. Here's the employee, and here are the jobs that this employee has worked on. Services that were performed, payroll item that is being used by the employee, and as long as those preferences were checked, you can use this activity to create a paycheck. One thing that's important about time is that the cost doesn't show up until you pay the employee. So you will need to create a paycheck in QuickBooks to have the cost of the employee's time showing your job. Let's take a look at a paycheck that has a job cost on it. From the Employee Center, we'll double-click the paycheck and look at the details. Here we will see the information that has been recorded on that paycheck. This customer job field must be populated for the cost to be recorded to the job. Next, we'll talk about creating an invoice. More than likely, you already have an estimate created. Let's go to our Customer Center and choose our customer. Choose our estimate, and as I mentioned earlier, directly from that estimate, you can create your invoice. When I choose to create the invoice from the estimate, I get a couple of options. I can either create the invoice in full or choose a percentage of the entire estimate. So let's say I want to create it for 20% of the entire estimate. Or I can choose the last option that allows me to create an invoice for selected items or for different percentages of each item. We're going to choose the last choice. and QuickBooks will bring up another screen. This screen will allow you to choose either which items by quantity, by amount, or by percentage that you want to create an invoice for. This particular estimate already has invoices created. Let's take a look at the invoices that have already been created from this estimate. The easiest way to get to the invoice is to do a Control-H, which will bring up the history on the estimate. Then that will allow me to open the invoice that has already been created. This is an invoice that has been created at the first phase of the job. The invoice shows me the estimated amount. This would be the prior amount that has been invoiced, the percentage of the line item that's being invoiced currently, and my total. The rest of the line items show as 0% being invoiced. And if I preview this, this is what my customer would see. They would just see the items that are being invoiced for currently. The next invoice that was created from this estimate, again, shows an estimated amount, that there was a prior invoice amount, and shows that there were now invoicing for lines 8 through 14. Line items 15 through 26 has 0%. If we preview this, then the customer will see that they are just being invoiced for lines 8 through 14. If I go back to history, I will see that this customer has already been invoiced for phase 3 and the final stage of phase 4. And this is where they've been invoiced for all of the items, with the last items being line items 22 through 26. In order to get paid faster, you can sign up for our merchant services and accept credit cards. Within QuickBooks Enterprise, we have several options and preferred pricing for merchant credit cards. So please reach out to me for your specific needs. The next thing we'll do is walk through some contractor-specific reports and other reports that will help you with job costing. I'm going to start at the Contractors menu at the top of the toolbar and choose a Job Costing Center. This is something that is unique to the Contractors edition of QuickBooks Enterprise. The Job Costing Center reminds you of a dashboard. It will show your most profitable jobs. All the blue links are zoomable, which means when I click on the blue link, it will take me to the job profitability report for this particular job. It shows me my least profitable jobs, then it lists some of the most common job costing reports. To make sure you're not overpaying your contractors and subcontractors, there's a job cost by vendor and job summary report. You can run job cost detail reports. This lists a customer in the job, then it will list all the costs that went into that job. Cost to complete by job is where you will tell QuickBooks how complete you are with each phase of your job. You can do that on a per line item basis. Based on how complete you say that you are with QuickBooks, we'll estimate whether you're making money or not on the job. The first column is your estimated cost. This is how complete you say you are. And then these are your actual costs. Then it shows your cost to complete, your estimated actual cost. Then the report will show your over or under amount. In this job, I'm over $5,000 on the bathroom addition, which I'm also 100% complete. I'm under cost by $5,000. Job estimates versus actual summary will list all of your estimates on a per job basis. You have your estimated cost showing from your estimate, your current actual cost already incurred. It will show the difference whether you're over or under. Then it will show your estimated revenue, actual revenue, and the difference. This view also shows an item profitability report. This report will show you on a per item basis. This will include both service items if you have non-inventory parts or inventory parts. Those items would also be included on this item profitability report. Also, on the contractors menu, you'll find some common contractor tasks. Here's where you can create estimates and change orders. You can create invoices, receive payments, make deposits. You can create purchase orders, enter bills, and pay bills. You can update your percentage completes. We include a list of other job costing profitability reports. You can look at the profit and loss by job report. This lists your chart of accounts on the left-hand side across the top. You'll have your customer and jobs first, and then the profitability from the customer. Each customer and job are listed in a column. Here we have a time report by job summary report. This will list all of the time that's been recorded to a job in a specific period of time. Remember, time in QuickBooks does not record costs until you created a paycheck. To see outstanding purchase orders you have for jobs, you can run and open purchase orders by job report. This will show you purchase orders that you sent to subcontractors. This shows you that line 1, you received a bill for the item because it's closed. There are 2 reports that are unique to QuickBooks Enterprise. The first one is a job WIP summary report. This report shows you a summary of job-related information, including estimated and actual cost, the percentage complete, and the estimated earned and actual revenue. The earned revenue column shows the amount you earned for the job but haven't billed or invoiced a customer for. The actual revenue column shows the amount you've already invoiced a customer for. Now we'll go back to the home screen. The other report, also unique to QuickBooks Enterprise, is the Committed Cost by Jobs report. This report gives you a complete picture of where you are on a job. This report gives you an estimated cost, your actual cost, committed costs, which are costs that you'll find on purchase orders or non-posting transactions. They are typically not included in a job cost report, but they are included on a committed cost report. Here you will see the unpaid wages. As we've talked about, QuickBooks does not record time as an actual cost until the employee receives a paycheck. The unpaid wages column is actually time that has been entered into QuickBooks for a job that you haven't created a paycheck for. Once you've created the paycheck, the amount will actually move over to the actual cost column. That concludes our video demonstration within QuickBooks Enterprise Construction and Contractor Demo 2024. If you have more questions about which software is the best fit for your business, please reach out to me at rayan.salter@mindingmybooks.com or click the contact link in the description section to schedule your free consultation. In our consultation, I will give you an unbiased opinion and customize a package so you can get an all-in-one solution based on your needs. Also, I'm available to help throughout the implementation process and beyond to make sure you get the most from your QuickBooks Enterprise solution. And as always, thank you for watching my video.